you're in the leadership business, you know it's about the image and how you present yourself and the impression you give. Check? And sometimes, any of you got children? You ever try to give one impression and then you look at your child 10 minutes later and go, what happened? So I'm flying on an airplane, and I'm flying from Washington, D.C. to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. I'm in my Army uniform, my Army combat uniform, my ACUs. And you know when you fly today, you're going to get your boarding passes. Check? And your boarding passes are going to give you instructions. You're at an exit row, you have an aisle seat, you're at a bulkhead seat. You with me? Well, recently I flew from, as I said, from Washington to Raleigh-Durham, and my seatmate, I was in the bulkhead seat on the aisle, in my uniform, and my seatmate had a boarding pass with a set of special instructions. They said, must have said, when Vinnie Boles' butt sits down next to you, start talking. Oh, and she did. But it wasn't a conversation, like, how are you, where are you from, you know, it wasn't like that. I was getting these thought grenades. I mean, I'd be sitting there, and the stewardess was like where you are, ma'am, you know, sitting there facing this way and looking at me, and I'm there, my new battle buddy's next to me, and I hear, I've been in D.C. for 4 days. I haven't been on an airplane in 8 years. When this plane lands, I have to drive 90 miles to go to my house. Is she asking for a ride? So I look at the stewardess and do one of these. If you're flying a lot, you know, stewardesses know. I look at the stewardess, went. Stewardess goes, we're full. So I decide reading's going to help. So I start reading. That'll, you know, distract. So I start reading. And all of a sudden I hear, psst. Psst. I look up, I look at the stewardess, and she's going like this. So I look over my new battle buddy, and she's doing this. People ask me, by the way, sir, tell a joke. I don't tell jokes. I just tell true stories. This really happened. And this lady's looking at me. I look over at her, and she's going. You in the Army? Yes, ma'am, I am. Psst. Stewardess goes. I look over. She's checked me out again. Going, gonna make it a career? I said the only thing I could, ma'am, I'm really trying. Stewardess is dying. People are dying of thirst in the back. Stewardess isn't leaving. She's not missing a show. So I really need it because I'm sensitive about the impression you give off sometimes isn't the one that folks take away. So the impression I want you to get is this. I'm Boles. I'm still on active duty. I'm in the Army, and I'm going to talk about the business of leadership. Fair enough? Okay. Wow. Leadership. It is fascinating to watch, complicated to be part of, and sometimes at one point it can be fascinating, another point, and great and uplifting, and another time it can be frustrating and like that. With me? How come? I think there's a couple of reasons why it's that way. First, it's ubiquitous. It is everywhere. Every single one of you in this room has been led, is being led, or is some combination of both. You are impacted by leadership. It is not something you are passively observing from somewhere else. You're being impacted by it. Check? The second point that makes it difficult is because everybody's impacted by it, everyone has an opinion about it. I could have a conversation and in 1 minute talk with any of you. And I would simply ask you to tell me the last 4 leaders you worked for, and from the look on your face, I could tell if it was a positive or a negative experience. Because it's personal and you get impacted by it, and therefore you have opinions about it. Yes? And the problem with opinions is, the opinion is what works for you. I liken it to food. Everybody eats. So I've been told. Okay. So everybody has an opinion about food. That doesn't make you an expert on food. That does make you an expert on what you like, but it doesn't make you an expert on food. Consequently, just because you're impacted by leadership, because you have an opinion about leadership, it doesn't make you an expert about leadership. It makes you an expert about what works for you. And what you've got to think about when you're leading at a higher level is what works for the group. How do you get the group on board? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. I'm going to talk about it because I think leadership is a craft. I have found in my 33 years of doing this, it's a craft. You can't stop getting good at it. You've got to keep working at it. The things I did as a lieutenant in 1976 as a leader are very different than the things I do now as a major general. The challenges are different. The issues are different. The way I lead is different, but some basics endure. So what I'm designed about doing today is talk about what 4-3-2-1 is, are 4 expectations your folks have of you as a leader. They are 3 questions you should ask and answer when you're leading folks. They are the 2 reasons I have found for stress in organizations when you're leading folks. And then finally, the one thing I believe every leader should truly concentrate on when they're leading others. Now, I'm a little nervous at this point because there's a notion going in your heads that we have Moses and the burning bush. Here it is. This is all we need. 4-3-2-1, we're done. Nope, that's not what this is designed to do. It's designed because when I talked about leadership as a craft, have you ever seen a good craftsman working? I don't care if they're a plumber, an automobile mechanic, an artist, a cook, it doesn't matter. Have you seen somebody really good at their craft doing something? What I've observed when I watch really good craftsmen working at something, my observation is they know exactly the right tool to use at exactly the right time and exactly why they need that tool. They know they need a 3/8, not a 5/8. They know they need a knife of this size. They need a paring knife, not a sledgehammer. They just know because they've done it often enough and they're familiar. So what this is designed to do today is give you 10 more tools, because 4-3-2-1 adds 2. Boy, you have a future in this business. It gives you 10 more tools to put in your toolbox as you're trying to practice your leadership craft and work through it. Fair enough? I'm working up here. All right? You want to get into it too. Or as I like to call it, what Bill, Steve, Rick, and Robert taught me on the road from second lieutenant to major general. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Now, one of the key factors in leadership before knowing what tool to use is you have to have good situational awareness. You have to know what's going on in the situation around you. You have to have that notion of what's going on. With me? And in the tactical world of the United States Army, that means you have to know where am I, where are my buddies on my right and left, and where is the enemy. I have to have that situational awareness. And in the Pentagon, we have to have situational awareness too. And wasn't that funny? No. But we don't have the opportunity to let General Boles, every time we have somebody in the G4 shop get a little out of the situational awareness lane, we don't have time to give them an hour-and-a-half class like this. So we have a little video that we show designed to get their attention about situational awareness, or put another way, get in their headspace. You think you're in the right box here, but you're not. You got to get over here and work this.